What's happening, everybody? Jon Kovach here, your host of the Circle of Knowledge podcast, brought to you by the Champion Circle Networking Association. I'm the founder and host of this show and of that organization. Again, my name is Jon Kovach Jr., and I am so pumped and excited to catch you all up on the last few weeks of my life and the adventures that we've been on. There's so much to share. There's so much to bring up to speed, and I'm really pumped about everything that's going on. You all know that we are one-on-one, hand-in-hand, and all together on several organizations, and we've just got a lot of movement, and it's just been really, really exciting. I literally have just returned back from a few weeks of travel, and it's been an exciting time. Previously on the show, we've had a few contestants from not contestants, but they are actual participants. These are keynote speakers, amazing coaches, speakers, mentors, business women and men in the world of finance, coaching, mentorship, speaking, and so much more. From the Amazon Prime TV show, also known as Speak Up, from season 3, I was recently down in Dallas where we were shooting the. And I say we, I was there participating as a fly on the wall and just kind of fanning everybody and making them all feel good. But I had no role in the gig other than I just love the show. And I was allowed to be in the back room, the green room, but we were shooting for season 4, and we'll be having a bunch of those keynote speakers come on before they launch in a couple months. Their season 4 of Amazon Prime Videos Speak Up will go live in just a few weeks. So we'll be having a bunch of them jump on. I also had a really cool opportunity so that I can introduce our guest today on the podcast. I was able to speak in a clubhouse room, one of the most popular entrepreneurial clubhouse rooms. And for those of you who don't know what Clubhouse is, go check it out. It is a audio-based or audio-only voice and communication social media app where groups and clubs get together and talk about specific things of interest. There are moderators, there are speakers, there are audience members. It is like the audio version of awesome webinar type connections and summit type connections. So it's a pretty awesome part of the experience. But I wanted to just share really quickly before I bring on our guest. This individual was not only a member of the audience, but this member was one of the moderators, one of the originals, the OGs, the people in the room that happened to lead this room and keep the club and I guess the camaraderie and the community going. And I was able to speak to these individuals and give a little bit of a masterclass on what I know on all of my studies of the last 7 years on the concept of mastermind methodologies. And as a result, I had the opportunity to meet so many incredible people. And one of those amazing people is the one and only Mr. Mark Ledlow, who is joining us today all the way from, I think, San Francisco. How are you doing today, Mark?
Great, John. Doing fantastic. Yeah, San Francisco is beautifully cold in the middle of the summer. If nobody knows that, you freeze your tail off. It could be August and 110 degrees in Sacramento, and you're baking like a cookie in Sacramento, and you're freezing like an iceberg in San Francisco. So yeah, been a busy year, busy season in the security industry. So thanks for asking.
Absolutely. And I do want to share a little bit about you before I ask you to tell us about your story and who you are and where you've come from. But I do want to say that, yeah, I think they say that the coldest winters are sometimes the summers in San Francisco because of the weather patterns there. But maybe I obliterated that, but you can recorrect me. But you guys, I met Mark on, again, Clubhouse, and Mark is a United States Marine Corps veteran. He's worked in the Youth Corrections Reserve as a police officer. He spent 10 years in corporate America. He moved to Los Angeles in 2008, jumped into the bodyguard industry, and 15 years later, he's been hosting his own podcast called The Fearless Mindset Founder of Ledlow Security, and he's Ledlow Security Group, and a business coach to veterans. He's a phenomenal person, and I can't start without saying what I must do to give my respects to those who have served served our country. And I just want to say, Mark, thank you so much for your service. We honor you. We are so pleased with the way our country is running, and we couldn't have done it without you. So without any further ado, I'd love to turn it over to you, my friend, and I'll spotlight you, so it'll be kind of a full screen, and then I'll jump back in. But please tell us a little bit about who you are and your story. Tell us about the awesome Mark Ledlow that we just introduced.
Well, the awesome Mark Ledlow is a very humble, believes in leading from the front, serving your team. What I've learned is in time is the greatest servers out there are the biggest leaders. And when you become the great teacher, the students will follow, was what I had one multimillionaire teach me many, many years ago. And I've been honored and blessed by just relationships people I built trust with and create those bridges of relationships with to do amazing things in my life, just opportunities that I have been blessed with. Like you said, bodyguarding in LA, that took 15 years of reinventing myself after leaving corporate America, the 2008 market crash. And I'm like, I'm going to move to LA. And everybody told me I was crazy that lived in Southern Oregon, that retired in Oregon from LA. And they go, have you lost your mind, kid? Have you lost your head? And it was like going to LA was almost like going back through Marine Corps boot camp all over again. It was the culture shock of all culture shocks. And I'm a Southern Oregon boy. I was a wildland firefighter in my 20s. So my first day at the job, I show up wearing blue jeans and flannel and a baseball cap in Southern California. Everybody looked at me like, where the heck did you find this guy?
That's awesome and amazing. And, I love those opportunities to either get thrown back into the pit, or to learn things. I feel like I do a little bit of high school coaching on the side, and when I jump back into football season, it's like being thrown back into the slaughter, man. It is yell, 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 run, 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 go, 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 and you're like, bring your brain up to speed because your body's not there yet,
Exactly. Your body's just not there. And the culture shock, I explain that so many times to people. The culture shock was like going through boot camp all over again, moving to Southern California and the workforce there. But it's pivoted me. It basically, when you're not willing to be uncomfortable, you don't grow. And the best thing I could have done is become uncomfortable, because when you become uncomfortable, you experience exponential growth.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. You're speaking my language now, so I'm excited to learn more about that. But tell us a little bit about the Ledlow Security Group and how it came to be. And I know you mentioned a little bit, starting that was basically a result of everything you learned back in Los Angeles. But tell us a little bit about where you're at now with your career, and give us a little bit of overview of what that looks like.
Well, that's a great question, because when you go through your journey of, like, my journey was a bodyguard, and I had a mentor by the name of Robert L. Dodge, who was the former CEO of he was the president of G4S Corporate Risk. And we go back my first job. He's been a mentor of mine, and he always said, Mark, when are you going to start your own shop? When are you going to start your own shop? And I've been through 3 partnerships. I've had people, a business partner, take 400,000 away from me. My dad was in the convalescent home dying with brain cancer, and the guy just became a 3-letter word. And I was going to take my dad back home before he passed away, and the guy ripped me off. And I've been through other business partners who ripped me off too. And because I've been through those journeys, I know what a bad relationship in business looks like, because I've had them. I have been stolen from. I have been ripped off. I have people screw me over. And because you go through those experiences, it prepares you for the great life. But you have to go through those experiences of falling down, getting back up, which I've been through. And Robert finally said, Mark, you got to start your own shop. So finally I buckled down. I took the test in Oregon, because it's easier to take a test in Oregon than California, and I passed it after the 6th time, and I got it. And I called Robert up, said, hey, Robert, that's Ledlow Associates in action. He goes, it's about time. You're no longer a little kid. You're looked at as a big player in this business. I'm like, I don't know about a big player, but what I'm happy about and excited about is what we can do for our veterans. It's what we can do to give them hope, inspiration, because so many of them are dealing with depression, PTSD issues, and we can give them hope of potentially having their own thing, having their own business. And the most powerful person in the world is one of that debt-free. and one that had control of time and money. And that's what I learned from some of my multimillionaire friends that have mentored me over the years. And now it's an exciting time. I'm working with Robert on different projects. He just became the CEO of Peshore, a Spain-based company. And we have some direct clients now in LA market, and we have direct clients in the San Francisco market. And if the challenges are finding people that are willing to work, because we have COVID-19 and a lot of people don't want to work because they're making a lot of money on unemployment. So that's where our struggle is. But it's a fun chapter to be in. I got Ledlow Security Group going on right now. Rome wasn't built in a day. And so you have to approach the same thing with your business. And I have my podcast that's going, and I'm getting in the coaching side of things with people that want to be entrepreneurs as well. And so I use my Marine Corps background and those principles I learned in boot camp in the Marines to apply in business principles. So it's a fun journey. I'm very excited about it. And it's a new season in my life. And I got all these people from Clubhouse now wanting to come on my podcast. And it's like, holy smokes. I'm no Joe Rogan. I'm not Jon Kovach by any chance of imagination. I'm not publishing many books all over the place and the rock star in the podcast world, as we all know. But you're my new master. I'm your new student.
Well, that's awesome. You touched on a few things, and thank you for the compliments. I'm just as a student as you are. We're learning this gig, but it's exciting, and I feel your energy, and I feel the essence of growth. And you mentioned something because we've all had, and I can't say we have all, but we've all had that experience where we've been screwed, or where we got gypped, or someone did something to us that really, really shorted us. And, those are the unfortunate business experiences that come with the professional life. But, they don't teach us that in college. They don't teach us as we prepare for our professional careers. They teach you about ethics. They teach you about all these theoretical things. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, integrity is either absent or it's present. And you brought something up that I absolutely love. And we've all heard the African proverb that if you want to go fast, you can go alone. But if you want to go far, you go with other people. And you started building reciprocal and perpetual relationships with right partners, the people who you knew you could trust. And that accelerated this new path that you're on, building partnerships, building connections, and now being on the same modalities and platforms that allow you to connect with more people. It just seems like a completely black, like white and black difference in what you were experiencing versus what you're doing now. And I love that perspective, because we on this show teach, and we oftentimes perpetuate the conversation of reciprocal and perpetual relationships. So I love that, and that's amazing. I'm so excited for you and what's going on, and I do want to make sure we talk about your show and send some of my people your way, because this is a great opportunity. But I do have to say, you say you're not Joe Rogan, but you got the Joe Rogan look going. You got the good hat hair and all of that. So I'm excited, man. It's pretty good stuff.
When your hairdresser says it doesn't work anymore after you hit 40 to do the comb over, it looks like creepy. But they get compliments when you're barber. Oh, you have such a nice head. It's like a smooth little landing pad for your plane. I'm like, okay, just might as well do it. What the heck? Yeah. I'm not Dwayne DJ, The Rock Johnson, but I don't have his buddy yet. I'm not in the Hollywood circuit, but sometimes you got to embrace the journey of aging.
Absolutely. I love that, and I appreciate it. So another thing you mentioned, and I kind of want to move into just the topic of discussion in regards to what's like the nuggets of knowledge that we'd like to share with my audience. But you mentioned having the right mentors. You mentioned bringing in people who were mentoring you, whether that would be, a coach, a director, someone who you looked up to, or even just someone who published a book, and from afar you're studying what they said. And I wanted to dive in a little bit to that, but tell me a little bit about your journey and how trusting and utilizing mentors has really transformed your life and gotten you where you're at.
Yeah, Jon, that's been an amazing transformation for me mentally and personally in my personal growth. One of them once said, show me your coach or mentor and I'll show you your future. Okay. And I was actually working at Sprint in Southern Oregon as a sales rep. I ran into this guy who was very successful, came from a very successful family. And he said, excuse me, he said, Mark, I'd like to introduce you to some of my friends of mine that are very influential business owners. I'm like, oh, okay. And me being in my Marine Corps mind going, okay, what type of pyramid scheme are you trying to get me into now? Because that was, the day you have all these multi-levels going on. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should use somebody else's brain and learn something about business and life. So I attended a conference. I went to the conference. I'm like, holy cow, my world was literally rocked. I was pissed off. I was angry, and I was shaken because I felt I had been lied to by Americans' education system. And I'm like, I was pissed. I was hot. I'm like, you know what? I had this grandiose idea about being a cop, being a SWAT, being this, being that. But when I learned that the most powerful person on the planet is somebody who has an asset, they're building their own asset, or you have the option in life. You can build your boss's dream or you can build your own dream.
That's right.
And I'm like, wait a minute. I missed that class in college. Where was that at? Someone stole my money from me from college. I have a $40,000 bill that's worthless. I'm like, wait, I was enraged. But I'm like, okay, where did I go wrong? And then that really pulled the trigger in my mind of business entrepreneurship. And owning a business is not easy. It's hard, but it's just the way you think. And that mentorship taught me people that collect a check every 2 weeks think differently from a guy that owns a business and creates an asset. They're two different ways of thinking in those mindsets. And that's what propelled me. And that's what saved me a lot of time and grief. And my best friend from high school is now a self-made multimillionaire. And it took him 10 years, but he's really successful in real estate. And how he did that, he started flipping homes. And then he went into that, and then he learned how to use other people's money to build condos. He did 22 condos, and he's teaching me all these little things about that nobody knows about in construction and development. And then he went and built 3 different apartment complexes and sold them off to somebody from Afghan or somewhere from South Africa or something. Some princess from the South Africa bought them for him in cash. And now, he went through his journey. He went through his journey of losing a lot of money, but he paid his dues. And that's where you get refined. That's where diamonds are made in the pressure of coal, and that's what we have to go through as human beings to get ourselves refined and become the diamond. But you have to go through that process of being refined. And if you allow yourself to go through that process, find mentors that have fruit on their tree and that have credibility behind their name and their brand, then you'll probably be successful. But the problem is we use our working mindset, our W-2 mindset, to listen to them. And that's why 90% of the people that try to get in business fail, because they do not know what they're doing.
I 100% agree. I'm going to wrap up typing here. I'm taking notes through the comment section. You've dropped some awesome bombs of knowledge, and I'm so excited. Probably not the best reference to somebody who's worked in the military. I shouldn't have said that. That was really bad. So my apologies. I wanted to go back on a few things you said, and I'll bring them up here on the screen so we can all witness them. But you said one thing, and I quoted you. I know you're quoting other people, but I quoted you because this is truly something that you embody. Show me your coach and your mentor, and I'll show you your future. What an amazing thing to say and a way to live by, because those who you most associate with or most associate like will oftentimes become your persona, or the average of the 5 people you hang around. We've all heard that become, you. And so I think that's fantastic. And I wanted to delve just slightly deeper into this one before we move on to the other topic I wanted to extract. But tell me about your process in finding that mentor. I know that you found some people who you trusted after, exiting some really, really trustworthy partnerships. But where did you go to find your mentor?
I went through friends that had relationships. They gave me an invitation that already had trusted relationships in business with each other, that knew each other. And I was given the open invitation because of my Marine Corps background. And they heard of me being in corporate America. I was a hustler back then. I still am now, just a little bit older and wiser. And less gray hair, no gray hair. But those open doors, see, with people, they don't understand. You're not always going to give those opportunities daily, weekly, yearly. You usually get one chance at meeting people. If it's a mastermind project like yours, John.
Yeah.
It's not every day you get an invitation by Grant Cardone to attend his mastermind. You don't get those shots every day. Most people work, they work 45, 50 years and then they're done. And then if they're lucky, their heart's still working and they keep on ticking for another 2 and then they pass away. That's the journey of life. And so that's how I found those bridges of toll bridges were opened up to me because of my background in the Marine Corps, obviously. And then I started listening to them, but it was a struggle for me to listen to them. Why? Because I was using my Marine Corps brain and my job brain to think. And I need to use their brain to think. And the problem with employee mindset people, they don't listen well. They go back on their own experiences in the job world to be an entrepreneur, and that's where you fail. Could you imagine Michael Jordan listening to himself to get his first NBA title instead of Phil Jackson? Could you imagine how that would work out? It probably wouldn't have. He probably wouldn't be the 6-time title holder that he is now. And look, he's a billionaire. But could you imagine what he would have done if he did not pursue college basketball and he was cut how many times in high school?
Yeah.
But he knew he had talent, but he had to develop that talent, and you have to have coaching to develop you. Because each person I find is interesting in Clubhouse. Everybody that's successful in Clubhouse running a business, they all have coaches. Every one of them has a coach. And do they pay for them? It sounds like there's some investment equity going on there. And if any message I can give right now to the veterans listening to this is you got to have a coach, because you cannot use your military mindset to build a business. It's two different animals, two different ways of thinking. Okay, yeah, you can probably listen to Jocko. He's a stream ownership author. He's got credibility as an author. So, somebody that's been through it. That's the best, has the smoke of battle on them. That's humongous. That's huge. The smoke of battle, you can usually sense them. They have a little step. They have a step in the walk. They walk in a room a certain way. They attract. They have power of attraction, like John Maxwell. Power of association. Power of association is so powerful in an entrepreneur world.
Wow. Oh man, I could keep this going. This is so good, Mark. I appreciate all those answers, and what a genuine perspective, honestly. And I really value what you said. I mean, yeah, and I want to warn everyone listening to this, whether you're listening to it live or you're listening to the recording, wherever you get your podcasts, but some sort of reciprocal investment or agreement does go into a lot of coaching. But I'll tell you what. That you brought up the example of Michael Jordan. No investment is too much when it gets you the results you seek. And that is by far one of the greatest messages, because a lot of people, when they first get into coaching, they need to overcome we'll call them the first hurdles of entrepreneurship, or the first hurdles of where they're at. And that's going to cost a lot compared to where you're at in the world. But that number and that commitment and investment gets smaller and smaller based on the results of the coaches and mentors that you bring on and hire to help you get where you want to be. I absolutely love that. And people oftentimes will forget that perspective. Investment up front in yourself is far greater than the investment you'll be seeking down the road, because of the exponential value growth in who you bring on in your life. I don't know if you had a comment to that. Otherwise, I was going to jump over to another quote here. And you mentioned you can build your boss's dream or you can build your dream. And again, the reason why I want to bring this up, Mark, is that you embody this. You did exactly this. You went back into the world of security, and then you were like, you know what? I can do this better with other better people, and we can do it in a cool area, and we can do it my way. But with the help of mentors and coaches. So I wanted to throw that out there and just say, first of all, congratulations. And second, what a cool accomplishment it is to trust in the mentors and the people who can guide you down a path to do something that makes you really feel like you're having fun. And you told me earlier you're a pretty young guy, and so because you're a pretty young guy, you're kind of hitting your strides now, and you're just starting to really see the awesomeness and the fun in your career. Tell me a little bit about this mindset transition, and where I guess really what I want to ask is, what would you advise to people right now how to apply this in their lives, whether they're working their 9-to-5 jobs or they're thinking about starting their businesses. What would be your advice to people who are currently living this quote?
My advice would be the advice I was given in my 30s. Wealth is created from the hours of 5 p.m. to 8 o'clock in the morning, because during the day, you got to pay your bills. So
Right.
the day job is pay your bill money. I call that survival money. But when you create absolute wealth, is from the hours when you get off work to the very hour you go back to work. That is prime time to build your last name, Inc., LLC, whatever that is.
Right.
And the problem is American culture, Americans are so paralyzed from the head down by social media, Candy Crush, Facebook, social media, Clubhouse. We are paralyzed. We are so paralyzed by misinformation. We are paralyzed by CNN, Fox News, CNBC, stock market. We are controlled by what we let into our brain. And that's the problem 99% of Americans face every day, because their input, they got to cut off that input.
Mhm.
That gives them nothing in results. If you want results, you got to snip that cancer in your mind that's taking away that extra brain power, that bandwidth. Because when you tap that bandwidth to a certain maximal production, you're going to only get 1% left.
Right. Oh man, I love this. And let's transition a little bit. I had a few more things I wanted to ask, but in regards to time, I want to highlight a few more things. With all the projects you've got going on now, I mean, you're living, you are truly living the principles that you're speaking. And I want to continue to press that to my audience, because again, if you're not watching the live show, you're not experiencing the energy I'm feeling with Mark here right now. But I want you to feel it by me reassuring all of you that this gentleman lives what he teaches. This is so cool and evident in his history and in what he's doing. And I've only known Mark for a very short amount of time, and we've had very few conversations one-on-one, and I can still feel that, and you can still honor that. And it's amazing. And so to my audience, just know that this gentleman, he walks the walk, and he walks the talk as well. I want to say, Mark, tell us a little bit more about the podcast that you've launched, and I'd love to send some of my listeners that way, because they can really get a cool perspective and genuine understanding of what you teach.
Yeah, it's been awesome. The podcast, first year anniversary is this month, so thanks for asking, John. It's been an exhausting experience, because I don't have a background in broadcasting. I didn't go to school to become a journalist. I didn't. It was a gift given to me from my dad, who dealt with brain cancer. He was a Vietnam vet, and he had a belief system that was very powerful, and that kept him going through his journey to his last breath. But the podcast was birthed from my dad, in memory of my dad, and honor my dad, of what he gave to so many people that saw him in action, living his life day, even when he had brain cancer. He had a hope. He had an eternal hope that kept him going, and his belief in his Lord. He was a believer in Christ, and that's what kept him going. And that's what his up until his last day, he knew where he was going, and that never wavered, even to his weakest. And I watched that, and that in turn birthed the Fearless Mindset podcast.
Wow. And I want to ask more questions about that, but you got my brain thinking about your father. So did he also serve in the military?
Thanks for asking. Yes, he was a Vietnam veteran.
Cool.
And his nickname was, he was on the USS Sacramento. He was a radar man, and his nickname on the USS Sacramento was Boomer. He liked to watch the jets bomb in Vietnam from the far distance. And he was a very, very smart man. I mean, he was a radar man. He was calling in airstrikes and all kinds of stuff. And he was on the USS Sacramento. He was a Vietnam vet. He was the hardest working man I know. Hardest working man. He was he actually owned his own business too. I think that's where I got that gene pool, that DNA. He sold hearing aids to old people. And he loved it. He loved helping people. He loved serving people. And he was also very active in the community grants pass, in missions, working with the missions. And he's always going to teach at the nursing homes and all that. He's always giving himself 7 days a week. He was the biggest server, one of the biggest servers I knew.
Wow. And talk about that leadership from childhood till the present, even with him passing, that's amazing. So, God bless you and your family, and for all that he strived for, and for his service. And again, I think that the authenticity and the genuinity that we feel from Mark here is one passed down from his father to who he is now, and has also inspired this. Let me pull it up here just so I don't say it wrong, but the Fearless Mindset podcast. Tell me a little bit about that podcast, and what do you guys discuss on the show, and who do you serve, and what are you seeking to bring on the show?
Well, the initial idea that Chris and I talked about was landing my ideal client, getting a contract. Well, a year later, that really never happened. You know why? Because it was not the message. It wasn't the business model I wanted. I wanted to impact people's lives. And that was the initial idea, to get contracts. But what it became was a platform of people sharing how they've been fearless in overcoming their own adversities, like mine with my father. And it just became a platform. And to be honest with you, I was very selfish with that. The whole mission in the very beginning was a very selfish one on my part, to get a contract, to get business from somebody of my guest. And you know what I learned from that is, no, you have to serve. You need to serve your guests, like you and I talked about earlier before this. Once you learn to serve your guest and allow them to use your platform and serve them and get their message out, it will come to you. But you got to plant a lot of seeds to do that. You got to build that trust and rapport with those guests. And that's when I had to do a flip of the switch in my head. It took some time because I'm not a podcaster, to be honest with you. When I landed my first show, I'd never listened to a podcast. I never even listened to Joe Rogan. I didn't. I had no interest in podcasts. I thought they were boring. Because I have ADHD, and I get bored really quick. I'm like, who's this guy? Well, I don't never heard of him. I know who Joe Rogan was. Everybody knows who Joe Rogan was. But why? Because Spotify just gave him a $100 million contract. But Joe Rogan paid the price. He paid the price for 20 years before he got a $100 million contract, whatever it was, from Spotify. And all these guys on the podcast world, there's 3 million of us. Only 1% get the money. Think about that odds. You're better off going to Hollywood and becoming an actor at those odds. And just that's the reality. And I had to look myself in the face and go, Mark, you're not Joe Rogan. Give it up, brother. Give it up. Just pay your dues. Pay your dues. And now I'm paying my dues. But the beautiful thing I've learned being a student of the podcast, and I've had Frank Mir, probably the guy that impacted me the most, because if you know Frank Mir he's a two-time world heavyweight champion in the UFC, but the adversity that guy's been through, everything he's been through, he's still standing up. He's got the most missions, but he's paid the price. He lives and breathes martial arts. He lives and breathes it. That's why he's where he's at, because he's paid the price. Like in business, you got to be willing to pay the price and pay your dues. And then I've had, Navy SEALs like Brent Gleason. He's a Taking Point Leadership. He's authored 2 books, and the he's a madman. He's just 7 days a week. He just goes. And that guy inspired me. He just inspired me. And then I have Juan Gonzalez, who owns his own security company. He's an Navy SEAL instructor. And I found out the guests are what make your podcast. And I had Michael Trout, former CIA. He was on the security team for George Tenet. His job was to protect George Tenet and his family. He's traveled all over the world. And he was my first podcast guest, because I knew I needed my guests to be rock stars in their industry and thought leaders in their industry. So I needed those guys to be on my podcast for the thing to be a success, because it wasn't about me. Yeah, I'm a Marine, Corvette, blah, 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 bodyguard. But the guests are what make the show. I mean, everybody knows who I am, but not everybody knows these guests. And if you pull these guests in, like I know Joe Rogan brought in Ed Cardone, the Mexican mafia expert. He's been on the show 3 times already. That guy's rocking and rolling. But you look what Ed Cardone went through with Mexican mafia. He used to be on the federal Mexican police, I think it was. And, he has his life threatened by the cartel. He lives in the United States because he has threats for his life. but you have to be willing to take those risks, and you got to be willing to take those chances, and that's what Ed Cardone did. And those are the 1% people that are risk takers in life, because you have to have a story, and that story is your buy-in. That story becomes your brand. Yeah, you were asking me my guest. So the podcast success is based on the guest. It's not on me.
That's awesome. That is so cool. I wanted to bring this up and show everyone. And here, we'll do this. Oh, nope, that's not what I want to do.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you can find the website, www.fearlessmindsetpodcast.com. We're also on Apple, Mark Ledlow, and iHeartRadio, Mark Ledlow, and I'm also on Instagram at Fearless Mindset Podcast on Instagram. And it's going well. I'm also on LinkedIn, Mark Ledlow Professional. If you want to reach out to me professionally about any coaching, speaking engagements, whatever, I'm working on dropping my first book with Linda Sunshine West. I'm co-authoring a book with her, talking about my dad's story. And I think the last chapter of that book is called The Fearless Entrepreneur. I'll be launching my own website, Mark Ledlow, here soon to push that book out. So a lot going on over here. And aside from everything else I do.
We love Linda. She's amazing. She actually just joined our mastermind community over at the Habitude Warrior community with Eric, Mr. Awesome Swanson. And she's also a contributor to our 13 Steps to Riches book we just came out with. So you're in good hands and friends with that woman. She's an amazing person. And in fact, she's actually next hour's podcast.
Nice.
She'll be on the same day. So that's really cool that you guys are working together. And huge shout out to you, Linda Sunshine West. You're an amazing human being. Before I ask you to share with our audience how they could reach you, which we kind of already talked about, I'll put it here in the chat section. You guys go check out the fearlessmindsetpodcast.com. Just bringing it up here in the comments section as we speak. There you go, Fearless Mindset Podcast.
Thanks, John. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Before that, though, could you please take a moment to, and I want to highlight you on this, as an expert in your space and someone who has just really nailed it on the head about mentors and mentorship, but also, trusting yourself in the process. Could you please give a challenge to my listeners on what it is that they could do, one step that they could take today, one action piece that they can take to move towards something with the knowledge that they have received by listening and participating in this episode with you?
Yeah, one great advice that stuck with me through my entire life in business and just in life. If you don't master life, life will master you. And I live and breathe that. My calendar is full. If you look at my Google Calendar, my calendar is booked out all week. I just do that every Sunday. I map out my calendar, what I got to do. And, people that have success in life, they control their time. Everything's routine. They have routines that they do daily, whether it's reading 20 minutes a day, listen to a motivational audio, having counsel sessions weekly by a mentor or coach. And that's so imperative that you have to have mentorship, but you have to master your calendar, master your day. If you don't master your day, you're not planning anything. And the way business people look at year is quarter by quarter. And you got to plan your quarter by quarter. That's how businesses run. They're businesses. And if you want to launch a business, you got to take that in mind as well as you start mastering your life. But if I can give you any advice, find a mentor and coach in whatever industry you're in. Say you want to go in medicine, find somebody that's a successful doctor. If you want to find a successful podcaster, here's John right here. He's got 3 books out. Want to reach out to John, mastermind. I'm going to be very, very selective on how I do my masterminds. I'm waiting to hit 1,000 followers on Clubhouse before I even open my own room. Why? I want credibility. I'm just not going to open a room to have a room to get my numbers up. That's useless to me.
Yeah.
Numbers mean nothing. Impact means everything. So people that are in Clubhouse are stuck on how many followers I'm going to get. I got 20,000 followers. Okay, you have 20,000 followers, but how much of an impact are you making in your audience's lives? Ask that question. And so people, I think, have the wrong mission. the wrong agenda, because your audience and listeners will know your agenda by your tone of your voice. They can tell if you're trying to sell snake oil. A lot of snake oil people out there that are trying to do one over on you just to get your money. But the people that have a vested interest in you personally, those are the ones you want to do business with. But make sure they have street creds and fruit on their tree before you do business with them. That's my recommendation.
Oh, I love that. And wow, those were some huge nuggets of knowledge. There we go. I didn't use the bomb reference, but thank you for sharing all that, Mark. And wow, we've really been edified and educated in this experience. And I 100% agree with you. Even if I didn't agree with you, what powerful advice it is to go, one, find a mentor, and two, learn the ins and outs and make plans in your business, because that's just how we do things. A great way a great strategy on how to take Mark's advice is to plan out your quarters of business by working on 90-day sprints. And in business, if you can focus every quarter, which is 3 months of business, or 90 days, approximately 90 days, sprint for 90 days. Anyone can sprint for 3 months straight. Most people put on their dream boards the things they want to do over the next 10 or 15 years. And, those are valuable goals and aspirations, but a great strategy to apply in your business and in your life is to have 90-day sprints so that you can focus on the planning of every single quarter of your business. And I honor Mark and him saying that, because that was truly very valuable entrepreneurial and important self-development advice. So I highly recommend you guys take his advice and follow Mark throughout this process. Go check out the Fearless Mindset podcast, as well as is there anything that you want to give away to the audience, or is there any way you'd like to invite them to contact you other than social media? Otherwise, give them your social media handles, and let's have my audience reach out to you. And how would you like them to do that?
Yeah, the best way to get a hold of me is my email, mark@ledlowsecurity.com. That's my direct email that comes directly to me. And I'd be happy to talk, share, inspire, and as a gift to your audience, if I can, they can probably get a couple minutes of my time. I'd be happy to share and help out, support. If we have any veterans out here, more the merrier. My platform, the Fearless Mindset Podcast, is a platform for vets to inspire, to motivate, and give them hope that there is life after the military. And for the women out there that are in a bad relationship, or men that are in a bad relationship, my hope is to save your life, preserve your life. And, we all go through seasons of our lives, and sometimes those relationships aren't the best relationships, business relationships. You have a bad business partner, and it just goes south. And sometimes you have those relationships for seasons. Sometimes they're not meant to be forever. Maybe you have friends come in your life for, a certain moment, and you get what you need out of those relationships, those friendships, and you take equity in those friendships. And we just have COVID-19 that shut everything down. And the interesting thing I'm excited about beyond COVID-19 is I talked to Jon Ledlow, former CEO of T-Mobile, on Clubhouse. Yeah. And I asked him what he thought was the future of economy. He goes, well, 5G on our cell phones is going to explode a new economy. And are you ready for that new economy? Because I think a lot of what we see now in business and different job positions are going to evaporate, because we're going through an information age right now, and we're leaving the industrial revolution. Now everything's digital. We have Amazon. We have online training. We have online training and online courses you can take with John. Why would you spend $100,000 for an MBA program that means nothing? That means nothing to Google and Apple. And they're now willing to take people without a college education because they have such a work shortage. Why would you spend that kind of money when you can go through mastermind programs with John or Grant Cardone and learn from people that have fruit on their tree? Why are we wasting money on an education that's the piece of paper by the time you get done will be outdated? The job will be outdated. Information is changing all that. And you guys that are going to college want to get a degree for what? To do who? To work for what? Is it going to be outdated? Ask yourself that question. Maybe it's time to be an entrepreneur. And so that's a challenge I want to bring to you guys. Why are you thinking you need a job? Why? Pay your bills? Or is there a better way to do things? Or are you going to create your own asset? So think about that. Or workroom at Jeff Bezos or become the next Jeff Bezos. So that's my challenge.
Wow. Thank you. I need here we go. Here's my mini microphone, and I just dropped it for you, my friend. That was a phenomenal way to finish up this interview, and I hope it's not the last. I hope you and I continue to have these conversations, and thank you for introducing your life, your story, and thank you for the vulnerability and sharing in your father, who obviously was, one of the greatest mentors and examples to you, and I know you've probably heard this every day because it's so true. But you truly embody his spirit without even knowing the gentleman. He lives through you and who and what you do, and it's amazing to watch and see that. So congratulations on that, and continue to perpetuate the mission you're on, and thank you again for your service, but thank you for your continual service in continuing to mentor and help those who are also veterans and those who are also serving. That there's no greater cause than to serve those of your own likeness and own manner. And so I really value you, and I'm already just in this short interview, Mark, I feel so connected, and I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to more conversations, more opportunities, and more success in your future as we find ways to reciprocate, participate in potential partnerships, and much, much more. But I just wanted to honor you and thank you for being on the Circle of Knowledge podcast. And again, everybody go check out Mark Ledlow on social media, but also go check out his podcast, fearlessmindsetpodcast.com. And you can also send an email. He offered some of his time to get to know you guys. So please reach out to you, especially my veteran community. Please go take a look at that. And Mark, again, thanks for your time today. Appreciate you. And thank you for your positive, amazing words. This was an awesome hour.
Thanks, John. Yeah, much appreciated. And didn't know, but I got this in the mail. Official trademark.
Let me full screen.
Official. We are trademarked.
That is amazing. Congratulations. Trademarked on the Fearless Mindset. That is fantastic. United States stamp of approval. That's awesome. Congratulations, and congratulations on all your success. I'm happy I'm proud and honored to know you, man. This is awesome. So congratulations on that.
Exciting things to come.
Exciting things to come. So everyone, please take Mark's challenge and do so. Go find yourself a mentor, go work towards your business, and take every ounce of energy that you can into focusing on what it is that you really want to do rather than what you think you're doing. And in response to that, Mark, thank you again. We're going to do our little outro here, but I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Eric, Mr. Awesome Swanson with the Habitude Warrior community, the Habitude Warrior Mastermind, the Global Speakers Mastermind, and also my dear friend and mentor. The individual has made a lot of these relationships possible. In the event of me filling in a keynote speaking spot on Clubhouse to teach and to edify on the mastermind methodologies, this is how I got to know Mr. Mark Ledlow. So that actually rhymed, which is cool. I really like that. This is how I got to know Mr. Mark Ledlow. That should be a book title. But Mark, appreciate your time, and thank you for joining me on the podcast. We're going to go ahead and do our outro.
Awesome. It was an honor. Appreciate your time. That was fun.
And just like that, the broadcast is